In this recording, I'm going to create a Symfony 5 project using Docker, PHP, Postgres, Nginx and Node. Now I've already got a bit of a head start because previously I've created a project which used Docker, PHP, MySQL, Nginx and Node. So I'm going to take that and build on the back of that. The only variable there being the database. So it should be fairly straightforward and nowhere near as long as that tutorial. If you want to actually follow that tutorial first, I'll put a link on the screen. But if you just want to start off from the same point as where I'm starting, then there's a link to the GitHub repo down below. And so with that, let's get started. In order for Postgres to work, we need to make sure that the correct PHP extensions, libraries, etc. are included in the Docker file. So if you navigate there, I'll highlight the two additions which you need to make. And once those are in place, then we just need to make sure that Docker Compose isn't still up and running, because we're going to make changes to the Docker Compose file. So as you can see, my Docker Compose is already stopped. Make sure yours is the same as mine. Then over in Docker Compose, I'm just going to take the previous entry that we made for MySQL 8 and we can just base our entries on this. So I'll change the service name to Postgres 11 service. The original plan was to use Postgres 12, but I hit an authentication error, which I'm still investigating. So once I've solved that, then I will update this and use Postgres 12. But for now, I'll just have to stick with this for the purpose of this recording. Also, you'll notice that this network's name is out of date. So what I'll do is I'll change that. I'll find every occurrence because originally I was using MySQL 8. So I'll just change the name to Postgres 12 because that is the future intention, even though I am actually using Postgres 11. Then just comment out the MySQL stuff because we're not using that. And then what we're going to do is start working on the Postgres service. The best resource for figuring out container config is the Docker Hub. So I'm just looking at the Postgres page on there. First off, I'll grab a couple of environment variables. So Postgres password instead of MySQL password, and Postgres user instead of MySQL user, which I shall change to main. What I want to do then is think about how I'm going to store the data. So my volumes, if you search this term here, where to store data, it's at the bottom of the page. And then the bit that I'm actually after is at the very bottom line at this time of recording. So I'll highlight it on the screen. We just need to copy this and then take it over to our Docker Compose file where I'm just going to customize it. So instead of having my own data directory, I'm just going to call my directory Postgres. That directory doesn't exist yet, so I'll need to create that at the very top level. So I'll create a new directory. I'll simply call it Postgres. And what this directory will enable is for the data to remain intact even when the container is destroyed and completely erased from my machine. I'll still have any data which I've generated with my application. Also need to select an image, so that's what I'm looking at here. 11 Alpine looks good to me. Alpine means lightweight, minimal. So image : Postgres : 11 - Alpine. Make sure everything else looks good. We actually need to do the ports. So for Postgres, it's going to be 5432 on the host and 5432 on the container. Everything else is good. In order for my Symfony application to connect to Postgres, I'll need to make an entry in my .env file. There's an example there which I can just customize. So I'll comment out the previous MySQL one, and the parameters are user, which was main, password, which was secret. The host name is the service name of the container. So the host name for your container is this service name. So we'll remove localhost and paste that in. Port can remain as 5432. Then the only thing that remains is database name. So previously in my MySQL setup, I was using the same database name as the project folder. So I'm just going to stick with that for Postgres. So with that, I think I might be good. Is this ready to run? Only one way to find out. Over to the terminal, the command is docker-compose up-d -build. Are we good? Nope. So we have an old dependency there on MySQL in the Nginx service. So I'm just going to change this MySQL service to Postgres 11 service, and we'll try again. So back over to the terminal, and I'll just run that last command again, and this is looking better already. I'll zoom through a bit and I'll show you here what's happening is the Postgres image getting pulled, and Docker images are actually created from multiple layers, so that's what's going on here. If you want more of an explanation of that kind of stuff, I'm quite open to the idea, as Docker is quite popular. Just don't be afraid to leave me a comment down below. With Docker exec, I can communicate with my container, so I'm opening a bash, and the reason I'm doing this is I just want to go into the container and create the database. So I'm doing it a slightly different way than what I did previously, where I ran PHP bin console. You can actually use this command, Symfony console, and to create a database, it's doctrine : database : create. Fingers crossed. That's looking good. Let's check it out in dbeaver, which is great because I can use the same tool as what I did to administer MySQL. So we'll just set up our database. So the database name is S5 Docker setup. Username, we said main, password secret, port 5432 can stay. That's connected. Excellent. So click finish, and then let's go and check it out. And here we have our S5 Docker setup in Postgres. Brilliant. So that wasn't too painful, was it? Let's have a quick recap on the work done. We added just 12 lines to the Docker Compose file, most of which we were able to get from the Docker Hub. We started off by adding a library and an extension to our PHP Docker file. And then, of course, in order to connect to Postgres, we had to edit our .env file by commenting out the previous MySQL entry and just added a Postgres entry. I hope that this recording has been helpful. If you would like to be notified when I create more content like this, then all you need to do is subscribe and click the notification bell icon. I release new content at least every 10 days, and details of my upcoming material can be found in the comments on my channel homepage.